Welcome back to the Eric Krown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start on this nice little Wednesday hump day over here. A very big hump day that is, as CPI is coming out later today. The next big catalyst, most likely, that can very well be the impetus for a break of this godforsaken range that Bitcoin's been in for a while now. So we'll go over what to expect with that, what sort of price levels start to clarify and validate the next sort of set of scenarios and essentially the price targets from there. Other than that, we'll also talk about a bit of Hopium at the end, but you know, Hopium will be Hopium, of course. And of course, we do still have our summer sale going on right now. I do want to strongly suggest that if you are interested in any one of the indicators, any one of the programs, to look at the promotional videos. They're going to explain who they're for, who they're not for, what to expect. If it's still not clear from there, then certainly send an email to support@krowntrading.net. But I suspect that that's going to answer the strong, overwhelming majority of questions. And we got another day and a half left on that one. Other than that, I want to let you know that the Funded Futures trading account is still going strong with their pre-opening deal. Of course, this is actually coming from one of the guys who's been in this community for the past 3 years now. And if you're looking for a funded account, they will actually fund you up to $250,000 if you pass, basically if you pass their test. So there's a link in the description to that as well. I put up a video on that topic yesterday. So without further ado, let's just jump into it right here. So yesterday we were looking at the 19,700 region as a nice pivot for the short and medium term timeframes. That obviously was taken out to the downside after a few bounce attempts, to be fair. You know, I mean, like we're very much starved for price action when we're talking about, you know, very small bounces like this. But yes, there was a nice bounce all the way up to $20,000. Crazy shit indeed, but ultimately did fail. And then we got our test to the bottom side of the range. You know, in this case, did we get all the way to the bottom side of the range? I mean, there was like 19,150 or so, it looks like. Close is close enough. Close enough is probably close enough in this case, but maybe one more strike to the downside, of like to officially fulfill a test of about $19,000 or so. But again, it's all eyes on the event later today. So with that in mind, I actually want to go to this chart over here on CME. I think it's just generally better right now. If we go down to the hourly, we can see a little bit of ebb and flow. Again, I wouldn't mind another swick down somewhere around low $19,000. But if we are going to be looking at indicators before an event like today, which I would really hesitate to do unless it's on like the very low term timeframes, then we can come up with a bit of a narrative, and then most importantly, we can come up with what are the major levels to be watching into that event later today. So first and foremost, we'll start off with stochastic momentum on the short term timeframes. We actually see a bifurcation amongst pretty much all short term timeframes here, but they're all pivoted around the same levels. So starting off with the hourly, we do see that it is pivoted at 19,400. We'll turn down with a closure below there. Bitcoin basically right there, you know, just like almost $100 above that right now, which is basically a sneeze with another 29 minutes left to go till closure. By hourly will also be showing upside as long as Bitcoin's above 19,250. 4 hour is going to be showing upside as long as Bitcoin's above 19,250 as well. So good right there, good confluence. And then the 6 hour is actually pivoted at the same level as the hourly at 19,470 or so. So if Bitcoin can maintain above that region, do we get a short-term bounce in between here in the event? Perhaps yes, you know, that is, I guess, maybe interesting for some, but ultimately nothing really matters now as long as Bitcoin's below $20,000. If you recall to yesterday's video, we were looking at the daily balancing level, although I did forget one last thing in the short-term timeframes. Yes, we do have ever so slightly negative funny rates, ever so slightly, where yesterday's positive funny rates, a good harbinger of death and despair for an amazing move to the bottom side of the range. Yes, and maybe we got some running over here, but again, these are kind of like splitting hairs. Anyways, I want to get back on to the topic of consideration, because yesterday the daily stochastic momentum level was huge actually, and it will be huge again today for kind of judging the validation of a potential reversal. So 20,100 is the level as of right now. Yes, stochastic momentum is turning down, or is turned down as long as Bitcoin's below there. So if Bitcoin does close today after the CPI event below that region, well, downside pressure continues, and we do see relatively, or I wouldn't say relatively, we are seeing low volatility reads right here on the HVP of stochastic volatility. On top of that, I imagine that we probably are also seeing low volatility on daily BBWP. Yeah, I would say so. On both CME and I imagine spot as well, actually kind of expanding from there. So with that in mind, you know, this move, this move could I mean, this move could very well likely have like some major implications with it for a range break. I basically think that we're going to see a range break starting from today's event, actually. If it comes to the downside, essentially any sort of a closure today, especially below 19.7, which was yesterday's bouncing point, or even below 20,000 bucks, is certainly not going to be interpreted well by the Bulas. If Bitcoin can close above, especially 20,000 bucks, that would look really, really, really good. Even above 19.7, I do believe would be a rather strong closure for a daily reversal right here. But until then, pressure remains to the downside, risk remains to the downside, and what would essentially confirm a downside continuation? We can talk about price levels here, obviously. You know, it's going to be about basically 19,000 bucks in change right there, but ultimately, it's going to coincide with today's event, extreme likelihood. And the CPI print, I don't actually know what the expected value is. What I do know is that one of the major news media channels like CNBC yesterday put out like put it out. Although we don't know if it was like real or fake or if that was a psyops or not, but basically markets fell on that coming up. So again, I don't know, like it was gonna be very, very funny if what they posted yesterday is the same thing as what we get today. That would be rather concerning for a legitimacy standpoint, but hey, that's the fucking game, I guess. Anyways, the game is this: whatever the expected value is, I actually forget what it is. If it is better than that, meaning lower, then markets likely rally. Why do they likely rally? Because then the Fed likely doesn't have to be as aggressive with tightening monetary policy, and interest rates can maybe, you know, not go up as much as what they're kind of projecting right now, and vice versa for if the CPI print is actually worse, meaning bigger than what the expected value is. Then markets likely have a nice impetus to tumble. And in this case, where would the tumbling area of interest be? Well, in this case, I've actually taken a Fibonacci extension right here, and I would be looking at the 1.618 at about 17,500 bucks, maybe a short-term stop at the 1.272, which is 18,500 basically, about 1,000 bucks higher than that, or ever so slightly. It's technically 18,440, which is also the current CME low, or just ever so slightly below it. So ultimately, those are the two areas that I'd be looking for. If it again is better, meaning that the real CPI is lower than they expected, then I would be looking at a potential reversal confirmed fully above about 20,000 on a daily closure. But even above 19.7, things start to take on a bit of a different meaning. So I would look at that like as an early warning flag. And then if the daily can close above there, then yeah, we actually probably do have a nice reversal in progress here. So other than that, kind of today, just like yesterday, I've really been holding off on my personal opinion. I just want to kind of present the data as is. But there is one last thing that I want to get to, a bit of Hopium, because I think I've been more so on the doomium side. So I want to give both sides their due diligence, I guess. And in this case, I want to bring back this chart over here. I want to also talk about, of course, counterpoints to this, but the pi cycle indicator has actually fired off a low. So we have gotten the low called from this indicator's perspective. So my issue with this is simply this: I don't trust things that haven't been tested that much. And in this case, we have two prior iterations where this is, accurately gotten the low. And there's also another contingency amongst that, which we'll get into soon enough. But hey, so far so good, generally speaking. And it has called a low here as well. I would argue that there is one major counterpoint to this. On this particular potential low right here, we do have a wick lower already on the 13th of June, actually, for that weekly. You'll notice on all the other ones, it does not do that. Things get a little more tricky, however, when we go down to the daily, and then I'll talk about a counterpoint to my counterpoint, a major area where I was wrong actually last year. But basically, if we go down to the daily, it is interesting, or you'll likely find it interesting, that on the daily, the pi cycle low called a low in 2015, 3 days or 2 days technically before the actual low. So it actually happened right here, if you want to be super exact, where these moving averages cross. I'm talking about the red and the green, of course. Anyways, in this case, why am I calling this out? Well, it doesn't look like much on this particular chart. It just looks like another few down days. No big deal with that. But the issue is that if we actually measure that out, that's a 37.5% move almost. Kind of a lot, kind of a lot. So, how much do you trust that? How much can you make out of that? For me, this has absolutely nothing to do with my fucking trading, so I don't care about this. But I understand that people find this interesting, so I just want to put my own spin on it, and hopefully, just make people aware of a few things that potentially could happen, especially if, we do get an impetus for another downside break. That would be quite nasty. And of course, if Bitcoin reverses from here, then at least Bitcoin's looking at like a major rally to likely transpire from here, probably into the mid 20s. And then of course, a similar situation happened last year on the high of April 2021, where the pi cycle indicator called a top. I discounted it. I was even bringing it up on streams and videos and whatnot, but I would always say like, I don't know if this is actually gonna work. Turns out it worked pretty damn well. Now, did it work pretty damn well? Well, Bitcoin did make a new high by about 15% or more than 50% afterwards. I would argue that's not the same thing, but hey, it does have a good enough history right here to kind of like get reasonably close to it, let's say. So in this case, is it perfect? No. Is it a good indication that we've probably seen the majority of this downside move from the overall high? The problem is that, if Bitcoin were to theoretically play out another 37 to 40% move to the downside, kind of from where we're currently at, well, that would put Bitcoin, into the deep teens. And when I say deep teens, I mean like $12,000 or so would be kind of within the realm of possibility, assuming a linear relationship, which, a couple of iterations, there's really not that much data to be going off of right here. So ultimately, I think that that's an interesting thing for Bulaw's kind of, consider perhaps, but at the end of the day, as long as Bitcoin's below 20,000 bucks, I mean, it's difficult to look at something like that, let's say. So again, I would be looking for, after the CPI event a little bit later today, about $20,000 as a major area of interest. 19.7 would be a good warning signal that, hey, Bitcoin is going to reverse from here and put in a nice move back up to 21 or 21.5 in the shortish to medium term, and then very likely carry on a greater move to the upside in the following weeks, which we spoke about many times based off of this chart right in over here, of which, should we go over the millionth and first time? Yeah, sure, why not? This is the 5-day stochastic momentum chart. Anytime that we have seen 5-day stochastic momentum get down to this green horizontal bar, it has bounced, historically speaking, about 58.25%. This has happened 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prior times in Bitcoin's history. I'm actually omitting one of the results within this one because it was too much of an outlier at 258% on the bounce. But ultimately, if we were to take that from the current low, which is the wick low over here, that would put Bitcoin at about, 26,000 bucks. At least a test towards the range highs would be good. And then a break above there, yeah, probably looking at a move somewhere around there. Now, I would say that this is not fully confirmed. However, we want to see a close of a closure. So that means that Bitcoin needs to close the next 5-day above 19.1, has the first piece of criteria in place there. But if it fails the second, then that is not a valid signal in the way that I look at things. Anyways, in this case right here, hey, Bitcoin actually playing out a little bit of that short-term rally. So let's see if she can pull herself together, but with still another couple days left to go till closure, a lot can happen, obviously. So I'd really be looking at this event as, kind of driving this next set of price action. Let's go over here to the hourly on BIT Mexico. Yeah, looks like it's going to come back up. And I mean, we've kind of already tested 19.7, or literally did, or are in it right now. Holy fucking moly, man. It's Green Dildos Party, left, right, and center. These Green Dildos are growing to the heavens and beyond. This is amazing. It's the first time I've seen an hourly this big. Yeah, that's a good place for me to leave off on this video. Yep, forgot ByBit. Yep, ByBit, they got their nice promotion going on. They have 0% on maker fees. There is a link in the description below to take advantage of that promotion. It gives you 30 days of 0% on maker fees, meaning that if you put in a limit order, get filled off market, you don't pay any fees for that, which is actually pretty good. Don't get, or just more money in your pocket, basically. Okay, cool. Signing off now. Want to wish you well yet again. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.